You know, when you think of India, your mind probably jumps to its incredible culture, its massive economy, or just its sheer size. But there's another side to the story. India is one of the world's biggest hotspots for natural disasters. And this isn't just about facing a few challenges here and there. We're talking about a constant, strategic war against the forces of nature itself.
So, to really get a grip on this war, we first need to map out the battlefield. And you're about to see, India's is incredibly complex, with danger coming from pretty much every direction.
This first map is a real eye-opener. It shows a huge, hidden vulnerability. See all those areas in red and orange? Those are the highest-risk seismic zones. This isn't just some abstract geology lesson. It means that these places, including the entire Himalayan belt and parts of Gujarat, could face absolutely devastating earthquakes.
And it all adds up to this one number, 59%. Just let that sink in for a second. Nearly 3/5 of India's land is vulnerable to earthquake damage. That means more than half the country lives with the constant underlying threat of the very ground shaking beneath their feet.
And as terrifying as that is, earthquakes are really just the beginning of the story. They're just one piece of a much, much bigger puzzle. The country faces a whole range of hazards, and each one is a serious threat.
So what is it that makes India so uniquely vulnerable? Well, it's not just one thing. It's this perfect storm of geography, climate, and, frankly, human factors that all come together to crank up the danger. Let's break down what that really means.
Okay, this table lays it out pretty clearly. Geographically, you've got this massive 7,500-kilometer coastline just waiting for cyclones. Climatically, the monsoon, the lifeblood of the country, is getting seriously unpredictable. And then you have the human factors, huge numbers of people packed into high-risk areas, often with buildings that just aren't built to withstand a disaster. Each one is a problem, but together, they create this cascade of risk.
Now look at this map. This shows another major front in this war: floods. The areas in red, stretching from the Brahmaputra Basin all the way to the Ganga Plains, cover over 12% of the country's land. And these aren't just one-off events. We're talking about devastating floods that hit millions of people year after year after year.
And the threats just keep stacking up. This map shows the danger of landslides. The Himalayas and the Western Ghats, these are hot spots where heavy rain can literally turn a mountainside into a deadly river of rock and mud.
So this brings us to the big question, right? When you're getting hit from the ground, the sea, and the sky, how on earth do you even start to build the defense for over 1 billion people? The answer, it turns out, is to have a very clear, very methodical plan. And India does have a plan. It's called the Disaster Management Cycle, and it's basically the official playbook for this war. It's a strategy that's not just about reacting to disasters, but about getting ahead of them, anticipating and even preventing them.
At its heart, what this cycle is all about is shifting from a reactive mindset, cleaning up the mess, to a proactive one. It's this continuous loop of activity, led by groups like the National Disaster Management Authority, which kind of sets the big picture strategy, and the National Disaster Response Force, who are the specialized boots on the ground.
We can actually boil this whole playbook down into 3 key phases. First, you've got the pre-disaster phase. This is all about preparing, preventing, and mitigating the damage. Then, the during disaster phase, which is all about that immediate, life-saving response. And finally, the post-disaster phase, where the focus shifts to recovery and, crucially, rebuilding things to be stronger than they were before.
But look, a plan on paper is one thing. The real test is how it holds up in a real-world crisis. So, has this big shift in strategy actually saved lives?
This one comparison says it all. Just look at the state of Odisha, which got hit by 2 massive cyclones 20 years apart. Back in 1999, with the super cyclone, the approach was reactive. The result? An estimated 10,000 people died. Now, fast forward to 2019 and Cyclone Fani. This time, armed with incredible early warnings, authorities evacuated over 250,000 people. The outcome? Fewer than 100 fatalities. It is an absolutely staggering testament to the power of a proactive plan.
But here's the thing. Just when you think you've figured out the enemy, the nature of the war starts to change. The playbook that works so well for something like a cyclone is now being tested by newer, more complicated threats, often ones that are amplified by our own actions.
And this graphic, this reveals one of the most critical new battlegrounds, our cities. It shows the shocking rate at which urban water bodies, the natural sponges that soak up rainwater, are just disappearing under concrete. And when they're gone, the risk of urban flooding just skyrockets. Take a city like Bengaluru, Nearly 80% of its water bodies have been lost to development. We are, in effect, engineering our own disasters.
And that brings us to the final and most urgent part of the story, the future. Because with climate change acting as this massive threat multiplier, India is now in a race against time to adapt its strategies and build a truly resilient nation.
And this quote from the scientific journal Nature really puts the challenge into sharp focus. Extreme rainfall events, the kind that cause flash floods and chaos in our cities, have tripled. Tripled! This isn't some far-off future problem, this is a statistical reality that's happening right now.
So the path forward, it really demands a completely integrated strategy. It's about more than just better warning systems. It means actively bringing nature back into the fight, like restoring those wetlands we just saw disappearing. It means enforcing urban planning that actually accounts for climate risk from day one, not as an afterthought. And really, it means making disaster resilience a totally non-negotiable part of every single development project.
And so, this leaves us with the ultimate question. India has proven that it can learn, adapt, and build a world-class system to fight the disasters it knows are coming. But as climate change makes the unpredictable more common and the extreme more frequent, the biggest challenge is still ahead. Can the nation's strategy evolve fast enough to keep pace with nature's escalating fury?